Spartans to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission of the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be playing the Quarantine Zone mission on the next episode. This episode, we're debriefing Sacred Icon from Halo 2. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krysta Brown.
Schism. Try saying that 10 times fast.
Schism.
Schism. Really get the, spit in the mic.
That's right. Last mission, while Keyes and Johnson head to the new Halo's library to secure the index, Master Chief takes a few gondolas and underwater elevators on his way to punch Regret in the neck to death. However, the rest of the Covenant show up at Delta Halo and are determined to pick up where Regret left off. They attempt to glass Chief, but he dives into the Forerunner Lake and is snagged by a crazy talking tentacle. This mission, after the loss of Regret, the Brutes are promoted ahead of the elites in the alien race food chain hierarchy. The two remaining...
Shit.
That's the schism right there, the schism. The two remaining prophets send the Arbiter on a mission to retrieve the index from the newly found Halo, which they learned is the key to activating the ring after a chat with 343 Guilty Spark. Arby heads out and discovers the Flood have been infested on this Halo as well. Date of the game is November 3rd, 2552. This is the day after, maybe, right? Maybe we got a little rest? I don't know. It all runs together.
The previous mission wasn't an RB one, so it might be a day later.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I can't remember the timing
mostly
between
just
the two
a sprint.
RBs.
Usually the big time gaps are when we go to slip space and back. Otherwise, we're just constantly shooting stuff.
Yeah.
Now, this mission, if you've played it, it's a pretty fun mission. There's a lot of action in it, but it's a big maze. So I'm not really going to walk you guys through the big maze because that sounds like a nightmare. But what we want to do is we want to talk about the first cutscene a little bit, and then we'll kind of cover off on the highlights of the mission, what we liked about it, maybe like what weapons we used, other key encounters. We'll cover the skull and the terminal as we always do. But let's start with the cutscene at the beginning. David, do you want to do a cutscene?
Do I want to do it?
Do you want to do
Sure.
the cutscene?
Sure, I can remember the cutscene. I can't really talk you through it word for word because it's been about a week and a half since I played it.
Yeah, no,
but
that's fine. But
the general
generally,
feel of it. Yeah, so like you guys said, we've just killed a Prophet of Regret. That causes one of the biggest shake-ups in the Covenant, and probably the biggest reason why humanity is still alive is what's coming in the next kind of mission. So the elites essentially get replaced as the protectors of the Covenant, essentially, of the hierarchs, by the Brutes. So there's a whole lot of background politics going on here, and there's different kind of books and stuff that actually talk about what was happening. It's all planned, all premeditated. But essentially, you see the Brutes taking over the elites, stealing their helmets and weapons. It's a really weird handover. You have Ratos there, kind of half-jaw, telling pretty much the hierarchs, this is a big mistake, this is crazy, and the hierarchs pretty much saying, tough shit, this is happening.
Well, they're just one of the hierarchs is dead, guys.
Right.
He's dead.
Yeah, you guys, this has never happened before, big failure, Brutes are in, elites are out. So the High Council, which is obviously the leading bodies of the elites, have threatened to resign from the High Council. I don't know. I didn't get the impression it was resigning from the Covenant as much as resigning from, because you can't do that. So I imagine this is resigning from the Council in protest. But it doesn't last very long, which we'll get to later.
Space politics, man. Space politics.
Space politics. And then it pretty much cuts to Truth telling the Arbiter his mission, which is to go down, and they've located a ring. This is wonderful. We're now going to light the holy ring and move everyone forward into the great journey. So to do that, they
pick up where Regret left off, essentially.
Yeah, and they have interviewed / interrogated 343 Guilty Spark, where they have found out what they need, which is the icon.
Do we? We never see that conversation, do we? That's not one of the terminals.
No.
Not them talking to him, no, but you have Mercy pretty much telling you that this is what we did.
Yeah.
And we now know we need the index. So they're sending the Arbiter down to the library to get it.
That would have been... I feel like that's a little missed opportunity to have something of that conversation. Because all these terminals, as we've talked, they're just all Arbiter. Like, Arbiter 24/7. They could have pulled out a little bit of, like... I mean, and they have the voice actor for 343 in these, so, like, they could have just done a little bit more and had that conversation. Maybe... I wonder if it was, like, a logistics thing, because they couldn't get Truth and Mercy back in to the... You know what I mean? Into the studio or something like that, but who knows?
Who knows?
I find it interesting that at this point, this is them finally finding out how to fire a Halo. They didn't know before. Like, they went to Installation 04 and didn't know anything.
That's true. They knew they went to the library, right? But then they didn't know.
The Covenant never went to the library on Installation 04.
Yeah.
They went straight to the control room.
Oh, the control room, that's right.
They didn't know that you needed an index, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, so that information never made it back. Because there are obviously some survivors, because that's... Arbiter was a survivor. So yeah, that information never made it back.
Well, they never even saw the index. The index was kind of a thing between Cortana, Chief, and Guilty Spark.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
A good point. Interesting. So that's why they call it the Sacred Icon. Because obviously, well, I'm sure 343 called it the index, but everything is, religious.
Sacred.
Sacred for them. So yeah, they send out RB down to and that's us now. We're back to RB. We're going to go take out it's mostly Flood in this entire mission, right? Like lots of Flood, and we got some
Sentinels.
Yeah. Sentinels and Flood after the Great Schism.
Hasn't happened yet.
What's that?
The Great Schism hasn't happened yet.
It's just been the change of hats has happened, but there hasn't been an actual...
The Schism is the war, as opposed to right now what is to changed out the guard.
Okay.
Brutes are on top, elites are on the bottom. That isn't the Schism yet. That's just...
Sure, but this is like leading up to it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, big time, yeah. We're a few hours away, essentially.
Yeah, right. All right.
Do we want to talk about how to retrieve the icon? Because that's kind of... Because it's not just going straight to the library in this particular ring.
Yeah, in this ring, essentially this mission's objective is to deactivate a shield generator so that you can fly into the library. So humans are trying to do the same thing. In the mission before, we had seen, we know that Miranda knows about the icon and that they're going to the library while John goes after Regret. So, like, there's a split there. In the same way, like in the first game, where there was a split between John and Keyes. He goes one way, Key goes the other. They do the same thing again, where Keyes goes to the library to try and get the icon, and John stays behind to fight Regret. So it's pretty... Yeah, actually, at the start of this mission, one of the cool bits of lore is that you can turn around and see all the lakes where you fought as John and High Prophet Regret died.
Oh, that's cool.
In the same way that when you're John, you can see the Sentinel Wall from there when you're on Delta Halo and Regret.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of cool. You can actually physically see the distances.
So is that when you get dropped off right away?
Yeah, when you're dropped off right at the start.
Okay.
I didn't actually look because I found out this after the fact, but I looked up to see High Charlie, which looks amazing in Remaster.
It looks so good.
But you can look down and then see the lakes, which is kind of cool with the gondolas and all that kind of stuff.
That is cool.
It's interesting that so much of the events in Halo happen on this one particular part of Halo. It's interesting that like the control room and everything are so close together. But I suspect the Covenant went straight for the control room when they landed, and that's why Prophet of Regret was so close.
Yeah. Well, they went... Yeah, well, it's actually it's interesting to see that they learned a lot from Halo 1, like the locations of things, and you see Miranda knowing that, okay, we know we need an index, and this is located here, so we don't need to go to the map room. You know, like, everybody went to the silent cartographer, to the map room, to find the locations of various things. And that's where the Covenant identified the control rooms here. Then they moved to the control room, and then Chief follows. So I found that kind of very interesting. So they probably know when they come to Delta Halo, they're probably like a standard build, except for one ring, which we'll leave off. In terms of the locations of the control room on each ring, is probably in the same location on each ring. Yeah. You would imagine, just from a pure like manufacturing point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, they do show this little opening cutscene here, where when you get dropped off anyway, they do show this new It's like a sentinel type, I guess, right? It's an enforcer.
They're called Enforcer, which I think is only said in this one cutscene.
Yes, it is.
So like
Tartarus says it, I think.
Tartarus just says, "We'll distract the Enforcer while you get by or whatever," and he shoots a bunch of weird weapons at it, and then they chase each other away. But I like the Enforcer. I think as an enemy type, it's pretty cool. I like to see the Sentinels getting stronger because there's like I don't know what you call them. It's probably a Sentinel Major. They have like the blue beams, which are stronger than their normal beams. So you get like different levels of Sentinels to fight.
Well, if you think about it, like when you're playing Arbiter, there's only like 2 factions you can fight because they're not gonna make a player fight humans as the Arbiter. That wouldn't make the fan base very happy, especially since this was the first introduction of the Arbiter.
Yeah,
I think people would feel weird shooting at people. Yeah. So it's either like you can either fight Flood or you can fight Sentinels. So they kind of had to add more Sentinel stuff so that you had more things to fight.
Interesting side note. During the development of Halo 2, this level was known as the Sentinel Headquarters. So that's interesting.
Oh, cool.
This is like a manufacturing site for Sentinels. Kind of like a factory, I think. And it makes sense when we think about what we're doing. There's a quarantine zone and we're deactivating a shield, and you imagine that's one of the primary goals of the Sentinels is to contain as well as like build things. So like they're containing the Flood, which we learn later as we like penetrate their defenses and deactivate. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Enforcer, if you've played other Bungie games, and as you know, Bungie likes to kind of reuse their ideas and assets, the Enforcer kind of shows up in Destiny, right? There's a couple enemy types that have like a shield in front of them that are like you have to shoot around. Okay. I'm forgetting what they're called, but also shows up in those games as well. Something similar anyway, similar type of enemy.
Talk about the guys on Mars. What are they called, Krysta? That race.
The guys on Mars?
Oh yeah, the big dudes.
The big dudes with big shields. What are they called?
Cabal?
There you go.
Well, no, the Cabal is kind of like the Jackals. But
you mean the Vex?
Yeah, it's like the big Vex. Yeah, there's the big Vex bosses.
Guys.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's Destiny.
It's relevant.
Yeah,
because
but
Destiny and Halo are different.
Destiny. Boo, Destiny.
No, Destiny's not bad. It's just not Halo.
It isn't Halo. You're right. All right, so I'm not going to walk you guys through this maze. What did you guys grab right away in terms of what were the weapons you used as you kind of started your trek? Well, so maybe we'll cover quickly. There's these piston thingies. They're called pistons, which they're just like pillars that and it does give you the knowledge on what to do right away. Because if you, you kind of start, you kind of walk into the building here and there's a single grunt firing at this piston. And so you can either open them from afar by firing in the little glowy section, or you can kind of walk up and just hit X.
I've never shot into the pistons. I usually just go up and press the button.
Really? I always shoot them.
Oh, funny.
But like they're such a weird thing, and they only appear in this one level in all of Halo. It's such a weird
It almost
gameplay
looks
mechanic.
like a corridor for the Sentinels to fly around in the facility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, it makes sense to your point about it being a manufacturing facility because it's not really practical to navigate on foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these pistons kind of open and close the different areas. And I guess we're kind of like taking the back way in anyway.
But also, for Sentinel facilities, like bipeds are not supposed to be at a Sentinel facility. Like it's only Sentinels at a Sentinel facility.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Also, another note, every time you go into one of these pistons, spooky music plays.
Yes, that's right.
The like singing, it's just so weird. It's like,
the high-pitched chanting. Yeah.
And just,
oh yeah, that's so strange.
Every single time, it's like, oh my goodness. And nothing ever happens. You just fall for a while.
Well, the first time sets it up well because you don't necessarily know the Flutter here yet. So that's true. It sets that up, and then you meet the Flood, and you're like, oh crap, here we go. But yeah, after that,
these bunch of bozos again.
So, it didn't take me too long to find a shotgun. What did you guys lean on shotgun? I stayed away from
I mixed around the very start. I was dual wielding plasma rifles because they're awesome against sentinels. They like totally destroy them.
Oh yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
I always
So
go
that's what I
with
use for
I go with the plasma pistol for the smaller sentinels. If I'm just fighting sentinels, I just overcharge and it instantly kills them.
Yeah, I'm going through this game trying to dual wield where I can, just because it's a novel mechanic still for me, because it's just not a thing you do anymore. So I'm just dual wielding everything.
I never dual wield. I just never do. I don't know why. I just need to, but whatever. Probably because we're playing on normal. Krysta.
Yeah.
Have you ever played a multiplayer match with just plasma pistols? Was it fun?
It's not super fun. Honestly, I played a funner way to play multiplayer matches where you have weird stuff is you just do sticky grenades and you just have to stick people with them. That's more fun. But plasma pistols, you get the overcharged shot out, and then you have to hit them like 5 or 6 times with a regular beam. So it's not that fun. It's too slow.
Right. Yeah, the kills would be too slow. It'd be just like mass kills, like everybody runs in and like murders everybody together.
It could be fun if we're using like the Halo 5 plasma pistols, where it's like different kinds of them.
Variants.
Yeah, the different variants.
Some of them are
pretty
pretty cool.
Are really cool. Yeah, some of them are actually worthwhile in fighting people. But just a regular plasma pistol, no.
Yeah. I can see that. But this mission, you said the plasma grenades. This mission, grenades work, but you also want to be careful because these flood are just sprinting at you.
Oh,
so
yeah.
A lot of times you're going to kill yourself if you're chucking grenades.
I would use them on the enforcers. I get their little like leg things with the plasma grenades.
Oh,
yeah. Yep, that makes sense. The enforcers I didn't really have much problem with. Did you guys?
No, not really.
No, not on normal. They can be a bitch on legendary true, because you have to get behind them, really. Because you got to shoot them in the ass.
Or right underneath them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is that one encounter where it kind of teaches you that, right? You get to that big room where there's the enforcer in the middle. That's the shield room. And let's just talk about the main beats, because I don't want to talk through all the maze. But when you get to that shield room, it's like you realize you can go under and get around that thing, because when it sees you, it'll focus on you. But then when you're gonna get out of its line of sight, then it'll just kind of hang there and float. So that's when you're essentially teaching yourself, okay, this is the way to do it. And then you can, I think you blow its limbs off too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, you have to blow its little limbs off, and then they pretty much die instantly after you blow those 2 limbs off. That
room, what are you? What are those? So that in that room specifically, when you get to it, you don't. I guess you don't have to take out the enforcer, but you need to go and activate those pillars.
Yeah, there's 4 of them.
Do you remember? Are they just called pillars? Are they just pistons again?
Yeah, they're just more.
These
pistons.
are essentially, they're like power couplings essentially. By doing this, and then the console pops up in the middle when you push that button, and the thing you're on turns into like a lift or a gondola. Mm-hmm. That's actually you deactivating the shield. So right when you do that, that's the flood released. I think, because that's the quarantine zone. Let's say breached at that stage.
Right, and that'll be the next mission, is kind of further into the quarantine zone.
Yeah, as you go here now, you move in the stupid gondolas again because they're so slow.
Yeah.
You then immediately get attacked by flood.
Yep, you get flood, and then you get a little phantom buddy, right? You get Tartarus's gets to hang out.
He's pretty useless.
Yeah, they don't really do anything.
He runs away real fast.
Let's quickly talk, because we did a little pre-show chat about flood on Delta Halo. The flood, as far as we know, the flood is on all rings in some capacity, just for studying and trying to figure out, how to defeat the flood from the Forerunner days. But it's never explicitly told to us that we know of. If you, dear listener, know how the flood got out in Delta Halo, let us know. But we don't think that either Bungie or 343 have explained how the flood specifically got out of kind of the research lab or whatever it is. They're just kind of here, and they were in this containment. Anything to add on that, guys?
Unless maybe they captured a grave mine for the sole purpose of investigation. That the grave mine didn't form there, they brought it there. But that's just me totally guessing.
Sure. But that's all we're left with. We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, it would have to be. They would have to have some kind of lab, and something must have happened to breach protocol, and then they got out.
Yeah.
The thing is with the flood is the rings aren't inhabited. They used to be inhabited. They're not inhabited anymore. So if a flood spore got out on this ring, there's nothing for it to consume. So it would most likely die.
Mm-hmm.
The flood have to consume something and have enough biomass to keep living.
Right.
And we don't.
But they can
don't,
chew on the flora, right? Or the fauna?
No.
No.
They can't?
They do.
Sentient life form.
Yeah, it has to be a sentient life form unless the flood eventually progresses where it starts changing environments and starts changing ecosystems to basically terraform planets to make more flood spores. But the flood have to progress like a crazy amount to the point where they're not... Because the flood can progress to a length that they don't have to have a host to make a flood creation, which is what we see way, way later. But... Like, at this stage, the flood need to have just more mass. Like, the stage that they are at this, on this ring is that they're just trying to consume and trying to grow in order to create more mass that they can progress their life cycle. So
when we see the flood, so we open the containment, and then we get in there, and I think it's marine flood, right? It's human flood.
That's humans, well, it would, because the humans have the same goal as the Covenant, it would make sense that there are human troops lowering other parts of the shield. Because we lower like 2 shields, I think, or 2 generators or something. Don't we do it twice?
No, we just do
it
it once when we get in.
Just the once.
Yeah,
but I mean,
that makes sense.
It's
like the humans beat because we talked about Keyes and Johnson were off, getting to the place, to the library, so it makes sense that because they're trying to get to a similar spot, that maybe
they've already breached the quarantine somewhere else. Yeah,
they got there first, and so that's why we're seeing human flood.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, kind of it's. I mean, it's not a gaping plot hole. Like it's not a. It would be nice to know, but it's not a huge deal. Essentially, how the flood got out. But I'm sure they could explain it away in a short story or something like that if they haven't already, that we're not aware of. But
I mean, the only thing that really makes sense is that there was a lot of flood being contained on this ring for study, and then
maybe
they all
this ring
got
specifically,
out.
Right?
Yeah, but who knows? Because I mean, because we can see the quarantine zone from here, and looking at the building that it's being held in. Like, we didn't see the outside of the library in Halo CE, but it's a really big building. Mm-hmm. And the library is where everything's cataloged. So it would be probably where the flood are being experimented on and stuff like that. So
yeah,
we just don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know, like minute details now about the rings, but we know general broad strokes of the Halo universe pre-Forerunner or pre.
And like we said in our previous episodes, we don't know a whole lot about Delta Halo.
No, we don't. Like, I looked because I want to do some research on this to bring some more information to the show on Delta Halo. If you go on the wiki, it's basically like Delta Halo was a Halo on in the ring. It's great. It's a ring that can kill people. Here are all the events that happened in Halo 2.
That's right. Here's an entire game was here, but we don't really know much about it. Right.
Yeah, we don't know anything else other than the events that happen in this game.
Mm-hmm. So back to our semi walkthrough, but yeah, we now jump on a gondola, and Tartarus is flying around. Isn't really much help. Like I said, we meet Marine Flood. That's where I finally picked up like a shotgun.
Yes, me too.
And, yeah, I was like, oh, UNSC weapons. Oh, cool. Let's go.
They look real weird in the Arbiter's hands. Just saying that.
It does, yeah. But I would prefer it to the energy sword, honestly. I feel like the
shotgun?
Really?
Yeah. I feel like the energy sword, especially with Flood, I feel like it takes too long to kill a single Flood with a swing. I feel like I can, by the time I kill like 5 Flood, I can do it faster with a shotgun, just bang, 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 instead of lunge, lunge, lunge.
Yeah.
But that's just
Yeah,
me.
that's probably true.
Yeah.
I have way more fun with the plasma.
Right.
The energy sword is a lot more fun, but when it comes to Flood, I just want them to get out of my face as fast as possible. So I pick the fastest method of
that makes
dispatching them.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so we're just kind of running through, killing lots of Flood, using whatever method you prefer. I'm good with you, David. I like to do the sword. And then I think I had a BR for a while, but BR wasn't really working super well for me.
I usually pick up like an SMG or a plasma rifle just to get the little infection forms because they're super annoying.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Because I'm not going to sit there and waste shotgun rounds on infection forms.
Right. At a couple different points in this game, you kind of do see that background. You see, we've already mentioned, you see High Charity, so you see the Dreadnought in the background. You see the library in the background, which is, I mean, skyboxes in Halo in general just are good, really good. So it's fun.
Oh yeah,
it's fun to see that. So the terminal is in the back. So when you go down a piston, and then you get to this big room, and in the background, I think that's the library in the background.
Yeah, you're looking at the library. It's this big building that has like these kind of weird like horn things on it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, that works.
It's got like these two like jutting like structures from it.
Yeah. And so the
Like a
terminal's
library.
there, and Chris will cover off that once we're kind of done with this talk through. The skull, it's kind of up in the rafters in one of those hazy rooms that you walked through with a bunch of Flood in. So you have to make a couple jumps. Again, you can't only get these on Legendary. I went up there on normal. It was not there. But yeah, you kind of have to hop up in the rafters at one point to get the skull there. And it's the Mythic Skull. Do you guys remember what the Mythic Skull does? I failed to look that up.
I think it
makes everybody stronger.
Yeah, like double health and just stronger in general. So.
Yuck.
Yeah, it's a really gross one. It's disgusting. They should be ashamed.
They should be.
And it's what makes their shields like double strength too. It's the Mythic Skull is the worst.
Yeah. So we eventually find our way outside, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Eventually, we
like
get
to
there.
the base of the library, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're kind of on the outside. There are these weird, like, tunnels that are blown up that you can kind of help guide your way through the rest of the mission. But you kind of proceed through the outside, and there's like these pits that Flood like to jump out of. Don't fall down those; you will not survive. So yeah, you make your way through, and then you meet up, you rendezvous with your other buddies, with Urtas and some other elites, and then
they drop in. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. So it's Urtas though. He's there on one of the turrets, and he's doing his thing, and then he's just saying, "Let's hold out. Let's kill the Flood, and then our reinforcements will get here."
That's pretty much what you do.
And that's the end of the mission.
And that's the end of the mission. Yeah. Anything other? Let's see here. There was one point where you see some marine chat. You hear some marine chatter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember that. So that was kind of cool. That gives you more of a an idea that or just a reminder that the UNSC is here as well.
Also, why are those Marines broadcasting on an open channel? That's against protocol.
Yep. Yep, exactly. And it's not like you would really do anything differently as the Covenant. You already know they're there. But it was just it's a nice little ambiance addition, I think, just to remind the player that, oh yeah, we're gonna meet up with we're gonna see in some capacity, we're gonna meet back up with the UNSC. Any other highlights for you guys? It's a weird mission because we'll talk about Quarantine Zone next, but they're kind of mashed together. It's all one big thing that the Arbiter's doing, but they decided to chop it up.
Even the end cutscene is basically like 2 seconds on this one. It's either the end cutscene or the beginning cutscene for Quarantine Zone, but it's like, hey, you're here, let's keep going, is basically what it is. So.
Very quick, rousing speech by Urtas, and then we're kind of done. Yeah, they're not my favorite missions. I think it gets a bit better in the next mission because does it? I don't know. We'll talk soon.
Yeah.
But this one's a setup. This one's setting up us going into the library.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this mission it's fine. I probably like it better. What was the other mission that we played where you're on the mining facility that none of us really liked?
Heretic.
Yeah, I think Heretic. I do like it better than that. It feels like there's more.
Yeah, me too.
More, at least like the scenery and like going down the pistons is kind of cool. It's weird, but it's kind of cool.
The new
And they give you
Sentinel
human
Enforcer
weapons.
is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's true. There's good parts, for sure.
At one
They're
point,
definitely made to be played together, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Halo 2 is like that. I think we discussed, like, there's all these back-to-back missions that work really well together.
Yeah.
That one just leads into the other. It's like one big mission. Like Delta Halo and Regret, Sacred Icon, Quarantine Zone. They just mash together.
So totally random. But at one point, I apparently I'll when I'm taking notes, I pause and write down whatever I'm thinking about, what's going on in the mission, and then I'll fire it back up, and then usually it's at a break when I've killed everybody or whatnot, cleared out a room. So I must have been in between that, and I saw a jackal on the ground, just lying there because I killed him. But I noticed his shield wrist thing. There's the little attachment. It was still glowing, and I'd never picked up on that. Or I haven't picked up on that yet. That it is like a little attachment on his wrist, and the entire shield pops out of that thing.
Yeah, it's a generator. It's that's why they hold it. It's basically, think of the medieval shields where you have to physically hold them, or you have wrist straps behind them. Yeah. It's just that, but like a little cute little stylish band.
Yeah. It's like a Fitbit. It's like a Fitbit with a shield.
It is.
They go into detail of it in Halsey's journal, so it's kind of cool, where she details exactly how it works.
Well, she tries to
use
the technology in Halsey's journal. Like, she tries to reverse engineer it. That's what Halsey does.
I'm pretty sure she does successfully. This is where the Spartan shields actually come from. Is from her study of these wrist shields.
I thought it came from the Elite's shields, though.
I don't know. I'm just saying that she had these things and she talked about them, Krysta, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Whatever.
This isn't a book club, David.
Yeah, whatever, Krysta.
All right. Enough, you two. All right, let's finish this up. Who wants to start? Let's do terminal first, and then David can bring us home with community stuff.
This is a cool terminal. So, this one is called The Taming of the Hunters. It is a scribe kind of just discussing how the Sangheili and how an Arbiter actually traveled to this world called T, because there's always looking for Forerunner artifacts. So they find this world called T, and they find that an alien species just munched on all of the Forerunner technology. Mm-hmm. And of course, because of how kind of radical this religion is, immediately branded heretics, immediately they have to be destroyed. So an Arbiter, this is actually on a moon, but he was actually spent a year on this moon fighting the Lekgolo, which is a long time. But also,
well, they made it sound like he wasn't fighting as opposed to studying.
Yeah, he was
learning about them.
Yeah, I mean, there was probably some fighting going on though.
Oh, I imagine so.
But which saying a year we think is 365, but depending on what planet you're on, a year is different. So I'm sure it's 365.
That's true.
Days. But so I don't think we've really gone over the hunters in depth, but just because it's relevant to what we're talking about, the Lekgolo are actually like individual, like, think of super big earthworms, and they eat through things, they burrow and all that kind of stuff. So that's the Lekgolo, and as we find out during the Arbiter's rendezvous fun year spent on this moon, he finds the Malek Golo, which is when the Lekgolo actually form into the hunter forms. Basically, they all merge together and create one or two entities that are bigger, badder, and can be basically big tanks. So this is when the Covenant sees them actually as an asset. Also, there's a species of Lekgolo that didn't eat the Forerunner artifacts, so they're like, you guys are okay, but man, those other guys, we're gonna murder them. We don't like those other guys.
Fuck those guys.
But they actually use these Lekgolo, the individual worms, on High Charity to study the Dreadnought. They're like inside of the technology, looking around in it. So they're pretty interesting. We went super in detail a couple episodes ago on the main show. You can go ahead and look at that if you want to learn more about hunters. But this one's literally about them finding the hunters, making a pact with them when they find out that they're actually useful, and then using them on High Charity to unlock some of the secrets of the Dreadnought. Which this literally doesn't go into any detail on exactly how that happens or what happens, but if I remember correctly, the book Contact Harvest goes over that a little bit. Some of the... Do they go over it in Broken Circle at all?
I can't really remember.
Yeah, I'm forgetting too. I mean, there's a bunch of Covenant stuff in that whole book. I mean, the whole book is pretty much about that.
Okay.
But
I know there's a part in Contact Harvest where they're literally talking to the hunters that are inside the Dreadnought when they're trying to unlock it. So, because the Dreadnought has an old Forerunner buddy on it, and we'll talk about him a little later in the series. But he's an interesting guy, really cool.
I think the hunters are cool. Like they're big, weird, brute thingies that are needed for gameplay. But the way that they've explained what they are, created them, I think is really cool.
I think they're the more creative of all the Covenant species.
Yeah, for sure.
They're the ones that are completely out there, completely different, because everything else is basically just different kinds of bipeds, very human-like, just kind of different variances on them. But this, having a colony of worms have one consciousness, is really interesting.
Yeah. Totally agree. All right, let's do some community and we'll get out of here.
Get out of here. Okay. Colin Perkins wrote in Facebook, suppose you stumble across an ancient Forerunner Dreadnought. Do you use it for good or universal domination? And I said, both. Because both the same thing, Colin.
Both.
You can do
Are
both.
they? That's the
You can do both, Colin. Krysta Sadira says, protect Earth from invasion, like what happened to the Avengers are trying to do, like a coat of armor around the world. I know that may be considered selfish, but ensuring humanity's survival will be pretty great, even if it's from something as dumb as an
Give
asteroid.
it straight to Thanos.
That's understandable. River says, I would hope to use it for good, but power does corrupt, so who knows? Dun, dun, dun.
Very true.
Chad says, in every Halo, super weapon is met with a counter eventually. The only reasonable choice is to use it for good while you have it, and not wield it like a mad hammer, hoping you crush all before it can be stopped. And then Aaron has an evil Mr. Burns. So mostly good answers from people.
Yeah.
We got some good-hearted people.
I struggled on this question mainly because it's just a big old maze and we're fighting Flood we've seen before. Maybe I could ask a question about the Enforcer, but I there's a point where you see the Dreadnought in the background, so I was like, got me thinking. Anyway.
What would you do, Colin?
What would I do?
Yeah. You have to answer your own question.
I would just live in it and play video games all day.
That is a very bad choice.
Terrible choice, Colin.
You don't want to go see space? You could literally play Halo in space.
Yeah, I would.
You could do it. You could literally
in space,
do Halo.
and I would travel to space.
I would give it straight to the Space Force. Start.
Yeah.
Let's start.
Build my own Space Force.
I like it.
I had some replies on Twitter. So, Mr. Blank 425 said, "I'm gonna take that shit to Africa." No idea why. I'm not sure how that would. Oh wait, never mind.
Yep.
I think I know what he's talking about. But
me too.
That is a spoiler. Naughty, no. And at Duststorm says, use it to find the Forerunners that are left in our galaxy and beg for help. Please, come to Earth. Everything's really weird here. Everything's
like real
changed.
life Earth.
Please. Can you fix it? Can you fix our society? Thank you.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, the Forerunners will eventually visit us, be like, hey man, what the hell did you do? You're supposed to take up the mantle. What have you guys been doing? You guys should be spacefaring. We'll be like, I'm sorry, we were just bickering about random stuff the whole time.
Right. Posting memes and shit.
we were too busy posting memes. I'm sorry.
But we talked about a Space Force.
Yeah, I mean,
that's right.
We have some speeches about the Space Force.
Mm-hmm. We'll get there. This is the start.
Yeah, this is the start. Space Force.
Mm-hmm. All right, that'll do it for a debriefing of Sacred Icon from Halo 2. On the next episode, we'll be covering Quarantine Zone. Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. Until next time, evolve.
Evolve.
Evolved.